Hello, my name is Courtney West. I am a full spectrum doula, nurse, placenta encapsulator, doula educator, and community outreach educator, and an advocate for Black birth justice. Thank you so much for considering becoming a Black birth worker. It is an absolutely amazing, rewarding career. Many people come into this work for different reasons. Some because they want to uplift their communities, others because they really like to see an birthing person empowered, and others feel called to it. All are admirable reasons to come into this type of work. Many times, Black birth workers are not aware of the challenges that come with taking care of Black and Brown birthing people in maternal toxic zones. Are you aware that Black women are dying 3 to 4 times the rate of their white counterparts? Right now, we're going to take some time to just go over a couple of things before coming into birth work that you can consider before taking this on full time. What are the different roles that white doulas have versus what Black doulas have in the birthing communities? Many times, white doulas are able to come in, really focus on their clients, and just come in and enjoying the birthing experience. They can come in with their birth plans, speak to the medical staff, and make sure that their clients' voices are heard. Now, when it comes to being a Black birth worker, it's a little different. Our roles that we carry are not just doula. Many times we're having to be the advocate, we're having to be the transitional person between the medical staff, the family members, and the client themselves. Due to our communities having histories of generational trauma, medical trauma, social and economic injustices, it makes our work a lot more difficult because it's not that we can just focus on the hip squeeze and just focus on our client. Many times we have to advocate for our clients so to make sure that they're heard. One of the reasons why Black birthing people are dying 3 to 4 times the rate of their white counterparts is that the medical system does not believe in the words and the voices of the Black people birthing. Many a times their calls for pain and discomfort are ignored for long periods of time, so that they ended up in crisis. So for you as a Black birth worker, it is up to you to be that middle person, to be able to talk to medical staff, make sure that your client's needs are heard, along with making sure that she's comfortable during her birth and that you can go through all the transitions so that she can have the birthing experience that she's looking for. So for you, you're having to wear multiple titles. You have to make sure to doula everyone into the room. With having to do that, that puts you in the firing space of having to deal with injustices and racism straight directly to your face, and that you are having to be the first line of defense for your client. Also, when you're coming from with a community that has such a series of traumas, you're constantly having to tell people what you're there for. If you have dealing with a family like a client who's taking your services in and their mother is coming from trauma, you have to address that mother's trauma, so therefore you can help your client and separate what their traumas are from the things that happen to you and say what your roles are to assist so that these same things don't happen again. It is not easy. Many times people get frustrated because they feel like, I just want to come in and just do the birth. As being a Black birth worker, the hashtag that you hear, saving lives, is not just a hashtag. That really is a big portion of what our job is, to make sure that our clients feel empowered, that they can advocate to speak for themselves, and then sometimes you have to be the middle person to help bridge the gap in the communication for all parties. What are some things you should consider before becoming a doula? So, when you're becoming a doula, especially brand new, you are going to need multiple streams of income. Most people cannot just make it off birth alone in the beginning. So it's about having multiple hats to wear. Some people do placenta encapsulation, they do childbirth educator, some people are massage, some people go into yoni steams. Whichever you do, you need to have multiple streams of income to cover the times where you're not having as many births or you're just starting up. Or if you have a job right now, is your job comfortable with you calling out or coming in late? You never know when births are going to happen. And you need to have a job that's flexible enough to allow you to have the schedule to be with your clientele and be able to be at work. So if you're also coming into this work, do you have children? Or are you planning to have children soon? If you have children already, who's going to watch your babies? Usually you need a community of people to hold space for you when you're going to these births. Again, you never can know when a baby is coming. So do you have someone you can drop your children off to 3 o'clock in the morning? Is it okay if you're at a birth for 6 to 24 hours that someone can cover that time for your children? Are your children comfortable that you're not going to be there? Sometimes you're going to unfortunately have to miss events, help with homework and things like that. Do you have a community that can help you while you're helping other people? Another thing to consider is if you have a spouse. Birth workers have one of the highest rates of divorce because we are gone all the time, we have erratic hours, and we are there for the needs of the people. You never know when you're going to get a phone call, so it's about setting up boundaries for yourself and for your clientele, but also your spouse. It's very important to check in with your spouse to make sure that your spouse supports what you're doing and completely understands what this means. This means that you're leaving at all times of night sometimes, that you're getting phone calls about different crises, that you're going to be having to be gone away from parties. You may have to miss events. You may miss, date times, and that they're comfortable with you being gone this much. Most people go into this work because we're passionate about it, but it's also important to make sure that your family supports your passion and be able to come into it, and that you check in with them regularly about when you're doing birth work. You cannot give from an empty cup, and you don't want to drain your family as well while you're giving yourself to other people. So a lot of times when you're coming into this work, this is not talked about enough. What does it come with facing that? While having to deal with economic injustices, racial injustices, and then having to deal with how the community is now, is a lot of trauma that is put onto you, and you get it firsthand. When you're dealing with a client who's coming from trauma from previous births, they may be in a traumatic situation due to their partner may be incarcerated, or they may be a single parent with multiple children. They are coming to you to be the words, to give them the encouragement, and that can be very heavy. You're dealing with, you never know what you're dealing with or what you're walking into. If they're dealing with other family members that are full of trauma and they are wanting you to fix their trauma, you are the middle person. You are their first line of defense. So imagine you're having to deal with the trauma from your client's partner, and then their parents and their other parents as well. You're having to deal with economic hardships, and maybe that your client is having difficulties being able to feed herself, because there's no community grocery stores in her area, and is having to walk everywhere. So she's having higher blood pressure issues and needing you to be the middle person to take them back and forth. You're going into the medical system and the medical institute, and you're not dealing with a midwife, but you're dealing with the medical institution of doctors who don't see your client as being a full person. A lot of times you'll deal with doctors or nurses that have their own biases against Black and brown people. So they'll assume that all Black people have high blood pressure, when clearly your client has never had bad blood pressures. So you're having to advocate for these things. You're having to go into the hospital system a lot of times with your client when they're laboring and help them be able to navigate this. Make sure that their blood pressures are okay. Make sure that they're being okay. This is a lot of trauma. Also, being up for long periods of hours. Sometimes you don't sleep for 24 hours because you have to be on with your client. This does a lot to your body. Trauma manifests in a lot of different ways. A lot of times Black birth workers will have higher blood pressure, have anxiety, or deal with depression because of the amount of work that is put on you. It is very important to be able to separate yourself from your business and your personal life so that it won't affect you so deeply on how you're able to take care of yourself. You cannot take from an empty cup. You cannot just continue to give and take everyone's trauma if you don't have a proper way to process this. So it is very important that you do not continue to take on people's things, but you have certain things in place so that you can take care of yourself and still take care of your clientele. With that being said, that leads into my next questioning. What are some good self-care tools to have in your doula bag? So when you're taking on that much trauma, it's really important to have some things set in place for yourself so you'll know how to decompress from these things. So if you have a really hard birth and you're taking on a lot of stuff, it's good to have a doula partner. Someone you can check in with, see how you're doing, express to them what's going on with you, or to have a doula mentor. Mentoring is a great way when you're a brand new doula. So you can be with someone who's been more knowledgeable, go over different things that happen, scenarios and births, someone you can reach out to during a birth if you get hung up or have a question or you're not sure how to stay in your scope of practice. Hey, I feel like this is going on with my client, but I'm not sure how to move with them. What's a good way to do? Taking good care of yourself, having great eating habits. Once you're done with the birth, have a postpartum plan for yourself. Eating dark leafy green vegetables, eating stews, drinking certain herbal drinks so you can relax. Taking care of yourself, getting yourself some acupuncture, chiropractic. Look at your normal apothecary so you can have something that assists you with your stress. If you're into yoga, working out, walking, stretching, anything that will be able to release the tensions that you go through while carrying births. Sometimes a good cry is very helpful in managing your stressors. I always implore new doulas to get a journal. Journal about your birthing experience. Journal about how you're feeling. Your feelings are valid. When you're dealing with racial injustices, how do you move in those terms? How do you feel about those things? And that you have somebody there that can help you express those feelings. I very, very much believe in mental health. I believe in people getting therapists or doing, community therapy. So therefore, you're able to have safe spaces to communicate. There's a lot of different safe spaces, forums. Some of them are online. Start one in person in your city so that you can come in with other Black birth workers and have a safe space to talk about what it's like to be out in this field. It is not easy to be on the front lines. And when you're doing it with other people and other people are holding your hand and you guys can hold each other accountable, and it makes a real big difference than walking this journey alone. So, again, let's talk about getting a plan set for yourself, having food choices in place, having exercise regimen done, things for your body mechanics in there, getting chiropractic, getting massage, and just really taking space for yourself and building your community. Do not do birth work alone. Go in there so you know that you're not on an island by yourself. So you as a business model as well, when you're feeling overwhelmed, you can bounce ideas off of other people. All these things are really important to keep in your toolkit while you're starting out doing this work. Thank you so much for taking your time out today to listen to about different ways of handling birth work and coming into this business. I hope all of you will be blessed on your journeys and continue on down this path, especially if this is your passion. It is important to always take care of yourself. Never take from an empty cup. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys are all blessed.